I said, show me. So he showed me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he showed me Romans chapter 1, verse 18 and 18 through 24, 32.
Well, tell us about that.
Okay, so
he's going to read through this, so hang in there. But this is really important.
This is what God says about this, all of this woke stuff, and especially we're a tragic set of circumstances where we've got cardinals and stuff saying that homosexuality is not a sin.
Well,
now,
back to that point where McElroy said that homosexual sex is not a sin.
Right.
And they put him in D.C. to be a thorn in Trump's side.
So right now he's in D.C.?
Right.
Okay,
but he's also dying of cancer.
Oh,
so that
good for him.
diagnosis came. Sorry about that. But,
Yeah.
But he's now trying to take the limelight now with the panel of people like Cardinal Supich, himself, and I forget who else, what other buttonhead they got on that panel to go and start attacking Trump. But you notice they do not go to talk to guys like Cardinal Burke, maybe
to weigh in, yeah, right.
Some of these other guys to see what the conservative view about this is, and get a translation, and what the role of the Pope actually is, not to be so political.
So you will not hear this read in any of the homilies in church. I think the old timers used to touch on these things too. But anyway, pagans adore idols. It says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and wickedness of those men who in wickedness hold back the truth of God, seeing that what may be known about God is manifest to them." So they know what the truth is, but they desire to follow man. For God had manifested it to them, the truth. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, his everlasting power also and the divinity being understood through the things that are made. Now, they're through natural law. And so they are without excuse, seeing that although they knew God, they did not glorify him. They did not assign any achievement to God or give thanks to God, but became vain in their reasoning, and their senseless minds have been darkened. For while professing to be wise, they have become fools. And they have changed the glory of the incorruptible God for an image made like to corruptible man, to birds and four-footed beasts and creepy things. And we in other words, we apply ourselves in degradation. Punishment of the idolaters. Therefore God has given them up in their lustful desires of their heart to uncleanness, so that they dishonor their own bodies among themselves, they who exchange the truth of God for a lie, and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. It says, for this cause God has given them up to their shameful lust. Now, when he gives them over to themselves, in other words, it said, this is what you want, go ahead and do it. It says, for their women have exchanged the natural use of that which is against nature. And in like manner, men also having abandoned the natural use of women, and have burned in their lust one towards another, men with men, doing shameless things, and receiving in themselves the fitting recompense of their perverse. As they have resolved against possessing the knowledge of God, God has given them up to a reprobate sense, and to a sense of being destroyed and being drawn into darkness, so that they do what is not fitting, being filled with all iniquity, malice. Now, here's what he's saying about when we begin to apply our human sexuality to these kinds of things. And this is the homo, hetero, anybody that's misapplying sexuality in a way that is not natural, normal. It says, being filled with all iniquity, this is the result of the sin, that the sin produces malice, immorality, avarice, wickedness, being full of envy, murder, contention, deceit, a malignancy, being whisperers, the gossipers, detractors, hateful to God, irreverent, proud, haughty, plotters of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, dissolute, without affection, without fidelity, and without mercy. Although they have known the ordinances, the rules of God, they know them, they have not understood that those who practice such things are deserving of death. And not only do they do these things, but they applaud others doing them. Now, that's a very clear indication of when we take what God has given us as a gift. Sexuality is about procreation. It's not about recreation. It's not about, different aspects of how we can feed a hedonistic appetite and of the flesh and not of the spirit. It's relatively simple. But I in my practice as a psychiatric social worker, I've had 85, 86-year-old old homosexuals. I can tell you, it's devastating to see these poor people.
You talk about the sense of loneliness and basic depth of despair that these people have.
Absolutely.
And I've seen this too. But in part of my, I've met an auctioneer in Chicago. I would run across some of these guys, and the guys just tell me, I'm just a burnt up old fag.
Really?
And they were just like, I'm not. I wasted my life.
Oh my God.
And this is how they're, basically
Sure,
come to me as some
right?
sort of a confession. I'm saying, I don't need to hear all this about you.
Right.
I said, you need to talk with somebody who can really hear. He says, you didn't walk away. And he says, so I need to share this with you. He says, I really need to, fix myself. And I said, you think about it now? I said, you're just afraid of dying. He goes, yeah, I am.
Well,
and I said, what are you afraid of dying for? He says, I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell.
Well, he can repent. There's not.
And that's I want to know.
No, absolutely.
Why.
You told him the right thing.
Right.
It's. Some of my patients would say I said, "Well, go to a priest." They go to a priest, and the priest hits on them.
Well, that's what McCarrick was doing, Cardinal McCarrick.
I'm
That's
thinking,
what
I
they
can't
nailed
even
him
send
for.
the guy
And
to
then
a
they let him
priest.
go. They let him go. They let him off the hook. He goes
Yeah.
to work for the government, and he helps overthrow the
Larry,
Pope. Who is in hell for this?
We're in big trouble. We're in big trouble with what these people have been doing.
Well, it's a pattern, and this is why I say the church is splitting. Everyone's talking about how there's so many more people going to church, but they're not counting. They're only counting the rosters are growing. They're not counting how many people are dropping
Leaving.
off. But they don't, because this is a false truth that they're trying to put out there. Yes, there is an awakening of the spirit in young men and men in particular, and they're bringing thoughtful women with them. I call it the Charlie Kirk effect. That when Charlie was killed that day,
he opened the door, right?
and they did that large service for him out in Arizona. So many hearts were opened, especially men, because they said to themselves, that guy didn't do anything that I didn't agree with. What he was saying was the truth. Everyone says he was racist. No. If the truth is racist, then you need to change your truth. If you want to fight the racism, if you somebody calling people out for not being good fathers and not being fathers in their families, fatherhood and family, the father has to protect the family. The mother is the center of the family. Am I right?
That's
okay.
right.
Okay, so the mother is the seed that that gives birth. The father fertilizes. He protects everything. Males are dispensable in this world.
There's nothing worse than a father. I know when I was with my children and stuff, and I would work nonstop. You don't want to, say to yourself, "I was unable to care for my family."
Right. It's a terrible feeling to say, "I can't feed my kid."
Yeah.
It's got to be a pain, and mothers, pains and stuff like this. And this is why Jesus, in his ministry going around, he had Judas hold the money. Whatever money wasn't needed to get to the next town went to the widows and the orphans in the town, because Jesus knew that this was the real, sin against humanity that we could all solve. And in light of what all these NGOs did, bringing all these people in from other countries, good-hearted but wrong, terrible execution. All you did was victimize, hundreds of millions of other people who didn't agree to this. Had they asked them for their authorization on this or help to get their own charity out of it, that'd have been a different deal. But they went and offered charity on your back and my back and everyone else's back.
The whole thing was a scam.
And they're leaving us with the bills, and they're going out and doing it some more.
And there's accusations that the trafficking of children. You got to remember, when money goes to and I don't know if it's going through the Vatican bank or wherever it's going through, other banks, even our own banks, that money is generated by drugs. And then they're saying there's even more money generated by trafficking kids, because the drug you use and it's gone, but a kid you can use over and over again. And this idea of Catholic Charities thing, well, we brought them in, yeah, but where are they? Who were they put with? You're supposed to be able to document who picked them up, whether they were legitimate. You're supposed to protect them, just not bring them in and let them go. We're in big trouble.
Well, it was an evil plan, I think, all the way around. Good intentions turned into evil outcome, which has happened. So more people have been victimized, I think, by this.
Even them thinking they were doing something
right. And even the people that they took out of their own neighborhoods back in their other countries, I said before, Catholic Charities did great work for decades, building hospitals, churches, schools, roads, bridges, wells, uplifting people in their lives, helping to deliver some sort of economic capacity to them. Keep doing that. Help them where they are. Jesus didn't say, hey, things suck here in this little town. Get out of here. They're going to go over here. I'm going to take you back to Bethlehem. I know a few people. He didn't say that.
No,
he helped them where they were.
Right. Same thing with Blessed Mother didn't go to the high priest, Caiaphas and Annas, and say, this really is the Messiah. It's my son. I can vouch for it. Well, because
words never heard from any other mother in the life.
There was one thought I had before in terms of like when Caiaphas and Annas, when our Lord was before them, in Mary of Agreta's The Mystical City of God, talks about that the high priest, Caiaphas, on each shoulder, one was Lucifer and the other one was some other.
Mm-hmm. He's got the typical characterization of the good guy, bad guy.
And then our Lord says that our current people, he goes, they're worse than them. Yeah. And so you can imagine the church is surrounded by a demonic influence. This is so. Growing up in the 50s, I mean, things were so much simpler. Never would have thought I'd be talking with this gentleman about these things. And first of all, I never read a book in my life when I was in high school. All of a sudden, I got all this. I'm doing all of this research and reading and stuff and publishing. I'm going, that ain't me. I mean, I was too busy looking at girls.
Well, people are still too busy and blissfully ignorant right now to actually see what's going on. Case in point, you remember Holy Week of Easter this year when we had that priest at Arcola at St. Pat's there?
Oh, yeah, Father John.
Was that who he was?
I think it was Father John, yeah, from Nigeria.
Yeah.
In fact, I sang at the Spaghetti Supper, and I saw him there, and at the time they were killing people in Nigeria. And I think I asked some other priest, another priest I knew, would he be at risk if he went back to Nigeria? Well, if they're still killing people, but our president went in with some of our, ixnayed some of these people and said, you either straighten up or you're going to cease to exist. Yeah. Islam. Right. Right away, I guess they backed away. But.
Well, they're back at it again. So
are they?
They killed 30 on Easter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not going to go away, and it's not going to go away with just the Pope or people at the Vatican saying, stop that. That's not going to happen.
Well, the Vatican, if they're going to hand over
20 million
bishops chosen by the communist government, they don't care about.
Well, they handed over the names of the 20 million.
What's about the 20
They
million?
gave the names of all the people in China that were members of the church.
Yeah, you can expect a Holocaust.
So next word of wisdom is don't register the parish if you go to China. So they don't have your name because they're going to give you up.
So between Francis and this other guy, see, they're responsible for doing that. They gave permission to do it. Even Cardinal Zen said, there must be a mistake. Cardinal Zen, there ain't no mistake. They're stabbing you in the back. You get it?
They did it right around them.
But they have this dog-like devotion that anybody that's sitting in that seat and if they're elected, come on, use your brain.
Well, but they're not accountable to anything for the rest of the world. It's like Trump was basically telling you to stay in your lane.
And they should, yeah.
And I think what happened in that instance, and I think Leo totally screwed the pooch on this one, like I said in my podcast the other day. I think he totally misread the room. I think these guys are misreading it because these things are changing the world faster than he can speak or think or whatever.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
People are picking up?
Oh, yeah. And Trump.
Do you think there's an awakening, Larry? You think there's a certain
level? Because Trump now changed the topic a little bit. Now they're all saying Trump is evil, doesn't even like Christians. No, he wants good people. He wants responsible people. He likes, the Catholic Church. His wife is a Catholic. He goes to Catholic Mass with her from time to time when the priest comes in. This is what I've been told.
Okay.
And so he is basically calling out for accountability, what these guys should be offering up on their own. But they won't police themselves. And this is the problem that we've been told again and again and again for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
They will not waken up. Mary has tried to ask them. She asked them at Fatima. She asked them at Rome City. Then she asked them at Garabandal. When they didn't,
Yeah, it was very clear.
they didn't report what they were supposed to do in the instructions from 2017. So apparently, the elders or the big kahunas making decisions at the Vatican, apparently they decide what's important, what's not important.
One of the key features.
They're cafeteria Catholics.
That's right. One of the key features of modernism is they do not acknowledge miracles. They do not acknowledge information from heaven. What they acknowledge is what they think is important. They acknowledge of controlling, making sure there's enough cash flow, money flow. They acknowledge making sure that their bellies are full, that they have an apartment, and that maybe they have a girlfriend on the side. Well, that's what Malachi Martin said.
Well, that's what
He
a
said,
number of them
Malachi, we'll make you a cardinal. You can go.
Well, you had Bishop Shaleta out in California. He just took off for, different pastors. The dude had a wife and kids on the side. They moved him around 3 times. Why does a woman go from city to city with a bishop or a priest for many, many years?
What happened to him?
He got kicked out. And I don't know if he's going to prison or not. I don't know if they'll go after him. I don't know if the church will testify against him. But you got Bishop Shaleta out there is basically banging, and I think he was not only doing his wife into Tijuana and knocking it with hookers down there.
He had a good life.
Yeah, he was known, and no one wants to talk about that. The dude took off with cash. He had lots and lots of money. He was tucking away from the collection plates.
Oh, Lord.
And nobody stopped him, and they knew it. He was like the Eric Swalwell of the Catholic Church, the quiet, secret.
Eric Swalwell, yeah.
Yeah.
They let him go. Huh?
They knew he was banging,
Like a bell tower.
having problems for 10 years.
So at a time.
But they kept using Nancy Pelosi says, I do nothing. Bullshit.
They knew it, yeah.
And people are out there accepting
So
this.
why are they?
This is, ladies and gentlemen, this goes across so many different channels.
Why all of it? So they're not calling this bishop out that did this.
They did. He's done. But the media won't talk about it, and the church won't talk about it. It's out of the way. Just like our Father John in Arcola.
What happened there?
Okay, well, he says Mass on Wednesday of Holy Week. And Thursday of Holy Week, he's not there. Substitute priest is in. Okay, and no one's talking about what happened to Father John. And only word is that Father John's bishop in Nigeria called him back immediately. Why? Well, because it was faster and easier to get him on a plane out of the country than it was to pay his bail that was going to be coming up because he had molested this woman at the church. And in the meantime, they got a hold of the woman and surrounded her with all these,
ecclesiastical.
well, they're coming
favors.
in, with this whole thing. And they pressure attack. Oh, I don't want to, I just want, they come in with this love bomb kind of thing to, they won't call it that. They'll say it was her choice and all like that. And be that as it may, it was the wrong thing to do. Not only by them, it was also the wrong thing to do by her. Because when you're a victim of this kind of stuff, you shouldn't have the option of staying quiet.
Right.
If you're going to stay quiet, you got to stay quiet the whole way.
No, you're right.
I say, because all you're doing is kicking the ball down the road for somebody else to
She
get
should
hurt.
have kept her mouth shut, not reported if she wasn't going to do something about it.
Well, that's an option, but they did get the guy out, so there's partial there, but he's not going to be held accountable here. And this is the deal that the church had made with the prosecutors in the United States regarding all these pedophile charges before, is they would turn these offenders over.
Yeah, right.
But they didn't. So again, it's another cover-up. They're going to call it different stuff, but it was a cover-up. Because Thursday of Holy Week, this guy's gone, substitutes in, and they don't tell, I think maybe they told everyone on Easter, but I doubt they did on Easter. I think they told them on Monday afterward what had happened. So the wonks from the diocese come out, they have the meeting, nothing to see here, we taking care of this was a terrible thing, and blah, 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 and we got to pray, and.
Would it have been different if it was a child?
I don't know. If I was a parent, I wouldn't have walked away from that.
I
But
wouldn't.
it's the wrong thing to do in these instances. I know it's hard to put yourself out there, but you know what? You'll get over it, and you'll be better for it in the long
No,
run.
our Lord said the truth will set us free. It didn't say covering up the truth will set us free.
No, there's nothing good that came out of this except somebody's feelings may have been preserved,
You know,
but it was still the wrong thing to do. This wasn't purity. This was not right. And people have to stand up for that. So when they talked with this parish meeting, then I think it was Monday or Tuesday after Easter. Now, be mindful. Easter Sunday this year, I think there was almost like a record number of people came into the church, baptized in.
yeah,
Pretty much
in
across
fact,
the board.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I know this church had at least
Two
a
good
couple
friends of
dozen.
mine came into the church, and I took pictures of them when they got their. It was the three sacraments.
You were there.
I was there. I was.
You were there at this, and he wasn't. And he
No, but
wasn't.
this is at St. Elizabeth. I was not. At
Oh, okay, that's right.
At St. Patrick's.
Oh, my
Although
friend.
I love St. Patrick's church. It's a beautiful rural church.
Well, I had friends were at that. They said Alex was there, and it was your son-in-law.
Yeah,
Was
my son-in-law and Joey Carollo, who makes rosaries. These are Protestant guys. They're drawn towards
Joey
the truth.
Carollo?
Yeah, he's a
That's
Spanish
a
kid.
name.
Hey, Joe,
Give me a Carollo. No,
Joey,
it's a
get your
rosary.
hand off your animal. Just make it. Joey Carollo. But they love Blessed Mother. They love the positive faith. They're not doing it because they're doing it because they love the church, the true church, the positive faith.
They want the truth.
Yeah.
And they want the depth of that goes with it, because the other stuff a lot of times is so superficial, it will change with the politics of the season.
Yeah.
And that's why we can't be, that's not purity. That's capitulation.
Yeah, no.
We have to be
cesspool.
strong about these things, because God gave us, the word in the Bible to follow.
Yeah.
It wasn't a suggestion. The 10 Commandments are not the 10 suggestions. Okay? You'll get those from Hints from Heloise or something like that if you want the 10 suggestions. But the 10 Commandments, well,
I love it.
well,
Well, I don't know if this one in particular. We'll work on that next
I
week.
get in trouble a lot of times for my, portrayals.
Yeah,
But
no, that's funny. I like
but
that.
but it gets through. And when I talk with my Protestant friends, they begin to understand. And I got to tell you, the Catholic Church and everyone's been going about it all wrong with Mary for decades, trying to explain Mary's role.
The greatest
in this.
treasure.
They
of
don't
the
understand. They don't understand it themselves because they don't feel it in the heart. To explain it to somebody else, because they haven't studied enough to really
Church. No, she's
explain it.
they say,
Many times.
Even Mary of Agreda that wrote about Our Lady and stuff, says that only in heaven, when we get the vision, what God allows us to understand, will we understand the enormity of the treasure that she is for her children. She calls Benjamin Netanyahu in Joseph Taraya's book, my son. Benjamin. And not just call him that because they're perfect. He's got his own problems too, all right? But he calls him my son, right? And that's how she sees us. So we're publishing that book, and
She calls me a faithful child.
Yeah.
Because I don't try to be adult about these things so much. I always said I don't want my faith to go past single digits. I don't want to go past 9 years old.
Right.
I believe the truth
Well,
because
the Lord says, unless you come as children, you ain't getting in.
no, there's a reason for that, because as you get older, you start getting to have your own beliefs and you start changing things out
Right.
to try to
Goofy.
capitulate
Right. Yeah.
to what's going on in the world.
We don't-
And this is why you need to
This
just
attack on Our Lady,
right.
make her less, you nutcase. What are you, out of your mind?
This
Even
is a
fu-
juvenile response. This
Fun.
really is. Every juvenile hates their mother, don't they, for a while?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
breaking away, yeah.
Yeah, it's a juvenile response.
Right.
And I think these guys think they're so full of themselves, has so much hubris, that who's going to stop me?
Yeah.
And that's
we're-
what Francis said.
Absolutely.
Who's going to stop me?
Right. Oh, he said that.
Yeah.
Don't believe me. These, Catholics are stupid. They're
Right.
dog-like. They'll do what I tell them. So
And-
he's such a nice guy. Mask of Sanity. Read about it. Eric Fromm, Mask of Sanity. These are like, he goes beyond anything that's even, this is evil, pure evil and stuff. But
Well, back to the story there in Arcola. So the meeting and the diocese comes out, and he's gone.
big meeting, yeah.
Yeah. And so the parish is out there, and there's like a 50-50 division in the parish. The 50% are asking questions about where do we go from here? Please don't send us any more of these foreign priests. We want an American priest
we can understand
who has American values and perceptions about things, that doesn't have this annoying kind of fractured feeling about how the world works coming over from Nigeria. These are farmers. These are people that are salt
don't
of the
mess
earth.
with them.
I mean, this is a very,
wouldn't.
very rural church.
Absolutely.
You don't mess with these folks.
It's like you have tractor pulls and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a monkey with them.
They got a big facility. It's a world-class tractor pull facility right down the
All
road.
over the world they come here. Yeah, no, these are people of the earth. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, they're not going. They're not going to take bullshit for an answer. So they're asking the people from the diocese about these types of questions. Well, and they said, well, we'll see what we can do as far as getting you an American priest in here to sort of make amends. And the other half of the parish, what are they worried about? They're angry. Why are they angry? Because they didn't get to throw the guy a going away party. After they just heard what
happened
had happened
Wrap
and was
your mind
admitted
around
to
that.
by the priest,
Right. Well,
they're worried that they didn't give him a proper send
They want to protect their
feelings.
their feelings.
Their
they
feelings,
want
their
to protect
virtue.
the bubble world that they live in.
This virtue, it was attacking their virtuous feeling that, I don't want to know about that.
Right.
I don't want to know about that.
Right.
It's a lot of people when they hear a harsh word, they go, it's like, please.
Sure. And what if the priest would pose a threat to children? You don't want to
Or
hear about that?
anybody. It's, I don't know if it's an adult woman or adult man.
We're not going to know because they covered it up, and that's the problem, is that they're covering up the truth.
Right.
Well, if the guy was good enough to come here to be a priest, we ought to know a little bit about, who he is and what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe maybe there's more to the story, but we're not going to know the story because the person is going to keep their mouth shut. The church is saying that we're going to take care of it, and we're not going to hear another thing about it.
Yeah. Well, we can't go and we
Well,
can't.
how about that party though? Maybe we should still throw a party, and
There were people actually really pissed off.
He's not there.
that
Is that really? Or they
They were
wanted to throw a
really
party?
pissed off that they didn't get to throw him a party.
It's crazy.
We give all our priests who go away a
Francis
party.
said it. They're like dog-like devotion. He said, "I can do whatever I want.
Right.
You'll follow me." Like, and it's he wouldn't. Pope Francis wouldn't say that, really.
So even in that one little test case scenario there, it was a 50-50.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And that's
Talk about the fall of the church.
well in this community it was 50-50.
And really,
I still can't get my head around
in the
it.
Midwest. You wouldn't. Should be like 90-10.
And especially at this parish, Father Havel had been there for 8 years.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a good parish.
he-
and the old time,
he
the
helped
other
make it
priest,
that
he was
way.
very. We're not having any. He said we're going to have young men that are going to be altar boys, and the other guy that was there before him, he was a tough cookie, and they should be. They preserved the essence of the Roman Catholic Church. But if you're telling me 50 of them are in La La Land, the other 50 want the truth, we got a problem in the Midwest of
We've got a problem everywhere because you go to California or someplace like or Minnesota.
you won't even recognize the church.
Well, it would all be one way. They'll all say, "Well, did he? What did he do? Did he grab some boob? Did he, fingers? Or what happened?" They want to know the details because there's a degree of sexual predation. No, it's an abandonment of authority. It's an abuse of the authority that's given to these guys, and it's a predator type of thing.
Sure
it's an
it is.
abuse, and this is an animal and they should never, I believe, ever be allowed to say a mass again. I'm sorry, death penalty. I'm saying death penalty on that stuff.
Well, they may be, just with Father Shire, and he wasn't doing any of that stuff. He was just interested in the money. And he talks about being before Christ, and he was condemned. He goes, I wasn't a bad priest. Probably wasn't. Just concerned about the money.
Right. Well, he wasn't a good priest then.
Think about these other guys that cross this line that are predators. This is, you guarantee, you're filling out an application for a place in hell. You're filling out the application. You go, well, it depends on how, degenerate you're going to be as to where you're going to be. Well, no problem. You just,
I could get a lot worse than that.
I can get worse than that.
You mean if